So, Anita, welcome to my podcast. My name is Dr. Yolanda Cintron, and I have a podcast that is called Dr. Yoli. And people that are interested in taking their health and life to a higher level, optimal level of health, they follow me, and it's kind of a private, group of people that want to be coached and they want to know what's good for them. So they have entrusted me with information, and I'm so honored that you're finally, we're gonna have a conversation. You have such a amazing resume. So I just want
Long
you,
time.
it is like pages and pages, and you have so much background in scientific research, research and all that. So why don't you tell me about you? Who are you? And what made you get involved in this
Well, it started
passionate
a long
thing?
time ago. When I found out that I was mercury poisoned from my 13 large amalgam fillings. They call them silver, but it's actually 48 to 54% mercury, as you know, as a dentist. And I was living in California at the time, and I had gotten insurance for the first time, dental insurance in my early 20s. So I had one mercury filling. And then I went to this dentist. He said, "How much is your insurance?" I said, "It's like $2,200. And he said, "Oh, we could do all the work now." He put in 12 fillings at once, 12 mercury fillings at once. Never did I know that it was mercury. And 6 months later, I developed chronic adult asthma out of nowhere. Um, I was born and raised in Pennsylvania. I was a dance major in college. So I had no health problems at all. I was a beast. And within 6 months, I was diagnosed with chronic adult asthma. And I said, "Well, how?" And there's like, "Oh, it could be environmental. It could be the change of location from, where I was living to move to California." And it put me on this quest. I tried every type of alternative medicine. Um, no one could figure out why I developed asthma. And many years later, I was at the health food store, the local health food store in Southern California. And I heard a conversation about a couple talking about they had a health problem, and it was diagnosed by bioenergetic medicine. It was at the beginning of that, like
Hmm.
biofeedback. And so I leaned over to the other table and I said, "Can you give me this information?" And they did. And I
Hmm.
contacted the woman who was the practitioner and went to see her. And she said, "You're mercury poisoned." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" you
You're
know?
like, what's that?
Yeah, exactly. And I thought I was pretty smart, way back. I'm named like back the day. And I got the book immediately. It's all in your head. And that made me call Hal Huggins.
Hmm.
And
So you were not playing.
no, no, no. I said, if it's me, it's everybody. I had a
Uh-huh.
career in real estate in California. I had a great gig. I mean, I loved my work. I helped a lot of people. And I built a coalition in California. It was a group of people that, one after another, and Hal was like guiding me, saying, "Okay, do this, do that." I found an
Hmm.
attorney. It's quite an incredible story. But I filed a case against the American Dental Association, and it was going to the Supreme Court of California. And then they went after my attorney. It was scandalous. It's the most insane thing I have
Hmm.
ever experienced in my life. But
Yeah.
when I saw the corruption between my legal case, and then nationally, we moved to this, the group grew, and I testified at FDA hearings in DC. And then I'm like, okay, nothing's happening here. And then this whole UN thing started in 2002 when I went, it was called the Global Mercury Assessment.
Hmm.
And that was my first entrance into the UN global work.
Now, the whole nation is more aware because I think that this timing in history is phenomenal for what we have been trying to do for the last, I don't know, I have been a biological dentist for 27 years. Um, and, now Kennedy did the fluoride, which
And we did it
you,
in Florida.
it's like, I bump into a hygienist that is very involved in the administration at the dental school. And she was furious that they took fluoride out. And she was like, now people are going to get cavities. And I said, well, what about not getting cancer and not getting brain damage and not getting, you know, less intelligent? Like, she's caught up on what she knows, but, not open to listen to the bigger picture of how that has an impact in the physiological and development of the cells and the children and all that. So I'm so happy about that win. I think that we're going to see changes before we die.
Oh, absolutely. I'm pushing for the end of the year. Seriously.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
We have a window. It's like we're in this window. And, at the beginning of my journey, in this whole thing, all the people came together like a magic trick. And we're in this moment again. I mean, I've been on several podcasts since I finished the citizens petition, which I want to talk about. Because while you're a citizen and you have this ability to do a citizen's petition against anything that you find unjust within the FDA framework, they make it so difficult. And I was not encouraged to do it. And I said, you know what? I'm going to do it anyway because I have the right to do it. I have a large chunk of my life invested in getting this job done. Because I'm so fed up working on the problem when we have the solutions right in our pocket,
Yeah, exactly.
The solution. Biological dentistry should be front and center of whole body health, period. And as a researcher, I can prove it. I'm just a parrot. I'm the messenger. I can tell you, I can show you, but you have to read the work. Like this woman you were talking about fluoride, they can say, oh, it's a problem. Oh, we have to use it. They're not looking at the research.
Right.
They need to stay quiet until they educate themselves. But they were taught not to look further than what they are taught in school, which is a huge problem. Yeah. The whole thing is corrupt, from the top to the bottom, bottom to the top. But
it's called indoctrination.
Exactly.
People have to be, they have been indoctrinated. I was indoctrinated. I went to school thinking that, I come from a working class family, so everybody believes that doctors are gods. So I went to school with that mentality. And then I met the doctors, and then I saw the corruption, and I saw how the patients' well-being was not their priority. And then when I learned about, the biological, impacts, I wept when my background is in chemistry. So I'm like, wait a minute. So the amalgam, the mercury that they're talking about in dental school is the mercury on the periodic table. I was horrified. And I was so grieved because I had practiced 6 years on a working class community placing mercury while I was pregnant. So the impact in my life, in my children, from having, placed and removed mercury while pregnant, that affected my children and their ability to retain information and to learn. And then I put it in my family, in my brothers and my parents and everybody that came to me. For 6 years, I poisoned everybody without knowing. So then I got mad. Then I said, or I get out of this, or I do something to be better, to learn what's better and not to harm my patients. So for 27 years, I have become an expert in dentistry and in how that mercury, root canals, cavitations, all this toxicity affects actually the entire human being, every cell of their bodies. And it's my responsibility to know how can I educate my patients not only to remove those things, but also how are they going to detoxify? Because a lot of doctors don't know how to guide them, and then they're lost.
Well, it's a beautiful segue for Dr. Boyd Haley's compound, OSR. That the entire
is it out?
No, but we're working on it.
Okay.
It's actually written into my citizens petition because, again, it's the corruption on the level of the FDA.
Right.
We have to just call it like we see it.
Yeah. That would be too cheap instead of MS medication for Parkinson, medication for autoimmunity.
Yes.
It's like all these patients come with all these toxic loads on medications. You get the toxic load out, and then they don't need the medication. They're not trembling. They're not having all
Once
these
they
issues.
clean up their mouth, but this compound has the
It's
ability
going to pull it.
to pull out everything safely. It's not like DMPS and DMSA. This one is he deserves a Nobel Prize for this.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely, he does. Yeah, he's worked very hard. So, I know that we're going to start with the end in mind. I want patients and people that are listening to you right now to know what we want. We have a purpose tonight, and this is to have them call and go into the petition. So how can you guide us through that process?
Well, it's a citizen's petition, and I don't know if you could put a link online.
We will. Oh, we will.
Yes,
Yeah.
put the link online, and then when you go to the website, there's going to be a box on the left-hand corner once you click on the link, and it says comment. So you click the comment button on the left, top left, and then you fill out the form. And, many people are saying, okay, what should I say? Well, you can say, for example, you would say, I'm a biological mercury-free for the past 27 years.
Yeah.
And the fact that we're still using it and killing our patients is inexcusable. It's a crime against humanity. Or perhaps one of your patients that sees this says, well, I too have been a victim of mercury toxicity. I was exposed as a kid. And, I realize now as I get older that this mercury has disrupted my entire health because it's a forever thing, and a lot of people don't understand that, you have to take it out safely, for example. I've been working closely with Dr. Blanche Ruby, for your colleague and my friend, my cousin and colleague and friend, for more than 10 years now. And like Dr. Hal Huggins, who discovered this by meeting Dr. Olimpio Pinto in Mexico City in the early 70s, Hal Huggins, he was really, in my opinion, and it's provable by going back in time, he's the real father of biological dentistry. Even if
absolutely
wants to take the credit. And Olimpio Faisal Pinto is the grandfather of mercury-free dentistry, whether everybody wants to acknowledge him or not. But if it wasn't for these two gentlemen, these two dentists,
they're giants.
Yeah. If it wasn't for those two, God only knows where we would be. Between both of them, I feel like they were responsible for saving my life and the life of all the people that I've touched and all of the biological dentists that have, removed mercury safely around the planet, even though it's a small number compared to the amount of people that are mercury poisoned today. I mean, when you look at the statistics, it's an outrage. For example, the NHANES database, which is the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey, it is the most important database in the world. And our country started it in the 1960s. It was only in 2016 they finally counted the number of mercury fillings versus composites. However, they did not include kids under the age of 15. So they're saying over 50% of the U.S. population has mercury in their head today. I mean, let's say 180 million people.
Yeah.
Understand the magnitude of that? Does anybody understand why everyone's sick? Mercury is the most toxic non-radioactive material known to man. They put grams of it in our head. It was identified as the first route of human exposure for most people that are not occupationally, like yourself, exposed. And we wonder why everybody's sick. I personally wonder how anybody's even walking around. That's what this is. We're walking around, but we're not healthy.
Case that we had this week was a gentleman with advanced severe restless leg syndrome. I have heard of it. I have a cousin that has it, but I never experienced treating somebody with that. I was horrified. How can somebody function and even live with a condition like this. After we remove all the mercuries, I could feel the electricity in his body as I'm treating him and removing the metals. He
Wow.
had gold crowns, and underneath he had mercury. All the teeth were full of mercury. A root canal, 2 root canals full of mercury. Somebody just filled the thing with mercury. When we removed the last mercury, his body stopped shaking.
Wow.
I have never seen anything like it.
Wow.
The
Wow.
next day he came, he had color. He's so grateful. This is just the beginning of his journey of detox.
Yeah.
But there's hope. You know, he told me he thought once about committing suicide because 20 years of this suffering of uncontrollable, involuntary electrical currents, pain, and suffering.
And people don't understand that. When you have metal in your head, even in your body, it's already problematic because we're exposed to so many electromagnetic frequencies.
Right.
Remember when they had the big cell phones back in the day? And all of a sudden, everybody was developing brain cancer.
Yeah.
Direct relationship to the cell phones against the head of the people that had a mouthful of mercury and nickel crowns and all the other jazz. But mercury is a principal culprit in all of this stuff. It always has been.
Yeah.
You know, it does pass generation to generation. Even like, you know, we're talking about, let's say, a good 150, 175 years of it being used. So even if you don't have mercury and your parents did and your grandparents did, and that just continues to linger.
No.
Long enough. I've seen it.
I have treated 12,000 patients. So that's a lot of people. A lot of people. A lot of very grateful people. Now, the sad part is when somebody comes with all that toxic load, the mercury, the metals, the root canals, all these quantities, and is way too advanced. You know the patients that they look like they're not going to make it because it's too advanced. The damage is too advanced. You know, we see young people with things that are like breast cancer. Why would a 31-year-old have breast cancer?
Root canals.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, why? And yeah, you see the connection between the teeth, the meridians, and the organs without fail.
Yeah.
Without fail.
I'm sure you've seen many things, just like your most recent patient. But, you know, I really have a lot of hope and faith that once people have, you know, what Huggins and you know, called a full dental revision.
Yeah.
Opportunity, no matter what age you are.
Yeah.
Cover it. Even if you live another day, it's going to be a healthier day.
Right.
That's, you know, we can't save everybody. Olympio Pinto, one time we had a congressional hearing, and I was actually part of the congressional hearing in Brazil. And when he stood up to present, he told all of the people that were in attendance, we may not be able to save everybody, but we can stop poisoning them. What a thought. Yeah. And this is why what Bobby Kennedy just did, saying we are not going to have mercury in any vaccines. I mean, this is like news.
That's huge.
It is huge, but mercury is the last place in the human body.
You know, remember when I found out about this toxicity, and I went back to the office and I looked for the box, and it says, it shall not be used on pregnant women, on children, or patients with neurological diseases. And I'm thinking, nobody ever told me this. Right. I didn't read all these little letters like the iPhone, you know, that says it's going to give you cancer. And I said, why use it on anybody? If this is like causing neurological conditions, why use it on anybody?
Mercury in dental amalgam was grandfathered in 1976 under what is called GRAS, generally recognized as safe. It has never been tested for safety and efficacy. And Bobby Kennedy, maybe a month or so ago, which is why I wrote the citizen petition, he started talking about this generally recognized as safe. product to expose the product liability. It's a shield. So there's many products on the market outside of mercury that have been grandfathered in, but they were never tested. So you cannot take a product like mercury dental amalgam and make it safe. If they had to go through FDA protocols for testing and safety, it would never, ever pass. So they just never did it. So now back to the UN. So I'm at the UN, and this was when the treaty process was, well underway. And the World Health Organization mouthpiece said, we cannot have vaccines with mercury. And so vaccines did not get into the global mercury treaty. Meanwhile, we don't have blood pressure cuffs with mercury, thermometers, batteries, blah, 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 blah. The only thing that got in was dental amalgam that is 48 to 54% mercury. And that was on a phase down approach. In other words, everything else had a date certain to ban except this. And the countries that have not banned it, I call them the usual suspects: United States, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, and the UK. The countries that have all of it.
Because the mercury goes to the brain and it damages the neurons.
Well, that's where Mad as a Hatter came from in Alice in Wonderland. The people that were manufacturing hats with felt, they used mercury to form the hats. So that's how this all started. But they knew back then. It was somewhere along the way, the American Dental Association said, oh no, but it's safe and effective restorative dental material. But it's a lie. It was never tested. So they've been selling this story for over 100 years. Nobody is going to ever think that, oh my God, my dentist poisoned me. They're just not going to think it.
Right,
and
of course
it's in black and white. And this is coming out. The work that we've been doing like maniacs for all these years. I'm 25 years in, but I'm kind of new to the game. Olimpio Pinto's in his 90s now. God bless him. He's still alive. I want him to see this end in his lifetime.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
I think that, God is good. There's a lot of good things happening in the health world. People are waking up, a wake-up call for everybody. And patients really are seeking for optimal level of health because they know if they're not at their optimal game, they are more prone to dying.
Absolutely.
So,
I agree.
tell me a little bit, I was really interested when I was looking at your, extensive amount of experience with Dr. Hal Huggins and, Dr. Olimpio. These are people that have really risked their lives.
Yes, they did.
They have risked their lives. They were persecuted, so what has given you the courage, to do this? Because, you put yourself at risk.
I heard that the big boss upstairs said, help people. And that's as simple as that.
Yeah.
And it is my life's work, and I'm going to see it through. And I'm going to be working on the solution side of this very, very soon. That's the citizens petition, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I just got tired of people not doing anything, because people are now saying, oh, my dentist doesn't use mercury. Most people that are middle class are like, oh, my dentist doesn't use it. But that's simply not true.
Right.
Now, these guys, they may not use it on you, but they're still using it. If they have a quota for Medi-Cal or Medicaid or, any social service or whatever.
Right.
You can, I call them dental mills. There's dentists that are continuing to use mercury. And I know that because our dear friend and colleague, Dr. David Kennedy in San Diego, he told me, he said a couple of weeks ago, a mother contacted him and said, oh my God, I took my son to the dentist. He's 4 years old and they filled his mouth with mercury. What do you do? I mean, the little kid's brain is not even developed. And what do? Do you extract the teeth? Do you drill it out? I mean, it's criminal. And here's the kicker with the FDA.
Yeah.
And I don't have the actual document in front of me, but I'm going to paraphrase.
Yes.
When I was writing this citizens petition, I came across a document written by one of their attorneys in response to another citizens petition. And it basically said, we don't recommend that the dentist tells the patient that they're actually using mercury, that is completely 180 degrees away from informed consent.
Right.
Covering this thing up. They are the cover up. And this, to me, when we're talking about millions of people sitting with mercury in their mouth today, including babies, and in their 2020 update of what they recommended, it's a recommendation. It is not a mandate. So that we say, oh, don't put it in kids or pregnant women. So, well, we say don't do it, but we're not making it mandated.
Right.
It's just a recommendation.
So I don't see a lot of children, a patient came and they came to be treated and they said, I would like my daughter to be seen by a biological dentist. So I reached out to a biological pediatric dentist in Boca.
Uh-huh.
The gentleman called me immediately. He said the dentist was going to put mercury in my daughter's mouth. And I said, no, that cannot be. That has to be a mistake. So I called the doctor and I said, doctor, you claim to be a biological dentist. And I refer a patient that is a biological patient to you that has a child, a 4-year-old. And he is horrified that you propose to put mercury. And she said, well, that is what his insurance paid. And I said, oh my God. So I told her, mercury is toxic. You know that this is very damaging to a child's brain and body. And it didn't occur to you to tell the father, this is what your insurance pays, is toxic. This is a better alternative. And this is the fee for that. Because that patient would pay any amount of money to make sure that his little girl doesn't get poisoned for the rest of her life. He said, it didn't occur to me. I said, well, I have a better proposal to you. What about if you stop taking insurance that is dictating to you quality of dental care?
Amen.
Because insurance cannot dominate our nation.
This game is going to change because when people understand that if your oral health has been damaged by mercury fillings, root canals, the whole gamut of
your entire body's damaged.
That is correct. So we need to completely revamp the entire dental system. Like back in the day when Weston Price in the 1920s, he wrote books on this thing. I've read his books. When Hal Huggins passed away and gave his entire library to Blanche, I helped to organize it. And I saw his original book. And I'm telling you, this is not new knowledge at all.
No, it's not. It's been around. And I think that is a great time because patients, the baby boomers don't want to die. They want to be strong. And they're fighting. And they're like, what else do I have to do? Yeah. Whatever.
Yes,
because it goes to the brain, it goes to the lungs, it goes to the heart, it goes to the nerves, and it goes to the skin. It's just like there is maybe 40 symptoms that are indication of mercury toxicity.
Yes. Now, 27 countries in the beginning of January banned the use of mercury in dental fillings. The whole shebang.
That's huge.
Yeah. 27 countries. Boom. Done. And that was part of the UN work that we did, lobbying and explaining, they really didn't have any options because Norway, Denmark, and Sweden were the first countries that banned it, but they banned it a long time ago.
Yeah.
And the thing is with the European Union, there are countries with various economies. Right. Some are more wealthy than others, but they were able to do it, which basically tells everybody, hey, this can be done. I'm telling you, the official paper is a resource document at the UN called Mercury, a Global Pollutant. Mm-hmm. And dental mercury, wastewater. It's the biggest contributor to mercury in the wastewater in the United States and in most countries. Mm-hmm. Cremation, which people are not thinking about. Burial, it goes into the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Human waste. Okay, so those green boxes, they call it sewage sludge. They sell that as fertilizer, so it's coming right back onto our food. It globally transports. It's sold. Mercury dental amalgam is sold on the black market in countries like Brazil, Chile, and in Africa, many countries in Africa. It goes into the country as dental mercury, and it's sold on the black market for what they call artisanal small-scale gold mining, where they pan for gold like they did in the 1800s in the United States. Right. It's illegal, but they're still doing it. A colleague just sent me an article saying that there is a cartel that is selling mercury to countries in Latin America to use for small-scale mining. Because, see, here's the thing. When the dental mercury dries up, that flow of going into developing countries to pan for gold, that source is over. And so the people that work as an NGO, for example, to help the miners, they're not interested in helping me pan mercury.
Right.
That's their government cheese, as I call it. They want this thing to continue. Meanwhile, there are other ways to mine for gold sustainably, like the borax method, that isn't toxic. You get more gold. And I wrote about this and you went papers and stuff and submitted it to the plenary. Mm-hmm. So it's all a pile of crap, They don't really care about human life. And at the end of the day, what's the point? We have got to fight what we know to be true. And that's what keeps me going. There's another story in this whole complex deal of mercury that I haven't really discussed, but that's coming soon. But I need momentum behind this petition now, because without a ban on mercury in dentistry, it doesn't really matter. It just, in my opinion, I'm watching this, if half of the country is poisoned, but what are we doing? Do you think half of these people in this country today, including little kids, more than half, let's say 180 million people, are going to be able to come to a dentist like you and get their mercury out safely in this lifetime? You tell me.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not even enough dentists to do it safely. You know what you have to do. I mean, if people saw the reality of what this is, this would have been over a long time ago. But
this is a very important topic, because we're talking about generations to come.
That's right.
Like my daughter, I never had a mercury in my mouth, right, as an adult, but my daughter had me and a father with 16 mercury fillings, non-biological dentist. He doesn't believe in it. I have offered to remove every piece of mercury he has, because I want him to be around for her and the grandchildren, right?
Yep.
So it's
sometimes family members are the toughest critics.
Yeah, it's education, opening, humility.
Yeah.
Reading a book. It doesn't have to be that you're suffering. You can actually get educated and sign a petition and help us out. So how many people do you want to sign the petition? Let's ask God for help here. How many do you need?
At least 1,000.
Okay, so that should not be difficult. We just have to take action. Everybody, that is listening, sign it. And everybody that knows somebody with mercury, they would be happy to sign it.
Every other person really. If you think about it, it's every other person that you know.
Yes.
And that is just, it's heartbreaking to me, because you as a dentist, you're on the front line of this.
Yeah.
You see all kinds of sick people all day long.
Every day, all day for 27 years.
Right.
It's humbling. It's very humbling. And how many people that I know, colleagues, have died from cancer? One of my mentors, Dr. Harrison, he was the one that introduced me to biological dentistry. He was very smart. He didn't tell me anything about what it was. He just took me to a meeting with scientists, all speaking. These are toxicologists and immunologists, and very high level of intellectual power in that room. in Toronto, Canada. That was in 1997.
Oh
And
my
I met Dr. Haley and I met all these different people. And I'm thinking, I went to the toxicologist. I said, this is criminal. You know, how can we stop this immediately? And he looks at me and he said, Dr. Cintron, the book of toxicology is this thick, and the mercury toxicity is most of it. So you have most of the book is about mercury toxicity. So it's a known scientific fact. We just have to put this on TV then, right? Social media did not exist then.
Right,
On
right.
TV, it has to be on TV. Well, I remember in 1987, my father-in-law that had MS telling me, I saw it on 2020. In 60 Minutes, they had a documentary about mercury and MS and neurological conditions. We were fresh out of dental school. We had no idea what he was talking about. No
Wow.
idea. The connection of the teeth and the mouth and the body, it went right over our heads. But then when I went to that meeting, I realized he was right. He knew what he was talking about. Those documentaries, then I researched to watch, they were right on. The science is there, it was on TV. But I said, there's a powerful agency here that's like controlling all this and not letting the information be relevant and everybody know about it.
That's right. This is the biggest cover-up. People think that it's vaccines that are bad. This is, 100 years more.
Yeah.
It's way worse.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Suppress this for a very, very long time. And that's why I feel this is our moment in the sun.
Yes.
We have the chance to do this now. And if we don't do it now, shame on all of us.
Yeah. So let's look at this is going to go through. Lots of people are going to sign. We're going to get more than 1,000 people. What about what's going to happen after?
After that, education.
Yeah. What are you going to do?
So we have to start training dentists on safe removal. All dentists.
Yes.
Not just the ones that are already in the game.
Standard of care. It should be standard of care in all the dental schools.
We need Dr. Boyd Haley's compound back on the market.
Yes.
And obviously, Blanche is an incredible educator. She needs her license back. And we must not allow dental boards and medical boards to continue to take the licenses of people who are doing the right thing.
For doing the right thing. Yeah.
This is absolutely an outrage. But we saw it with COVID. How many doctors lost their license? We saw it before that with mercury-free dentists.
Yeah.
I can name a whole pile of dentists that lost their licenses, because they were mercury-free. They say it's outside of the scope of medicine. It's not. It's outside of the standard of care. It's not. Not if you go to the history. It
is above standard of care.
Absolutely.
It's above protecting the patient, using air, oxygen, putting a rubber dam, using precautions. How can that be not but above standard of care, but it should be standard of care across the countries everywhere?
We're fighting to stop the use of a known neurotoxin. We're fighting to allow people to have access to something that is non-toxic, that people, can't overdose on. And we're talking about ethical medicine and dentistry.
Yeah.
And who made
the patients have the right to choose what they want to do in their body. They should be able to choose materials, quality of materials, protocols. Government should not be involved
at all
in dictating how people are going to live their lives, because that's short of a communist country.
That's exactly right. That's what we're fighting. So first, I still stick with dentists are first, because when you go to the dentist, you're putting your entire life's health in their hands.
Yeah. And most people have 32 teeth. So the chances of somebody going to a dentist to get some dental work, because our diet is so rich in sugars and carbohydrates that are going to cause erosion and acid erosion on the enamel. When I go to Nigeria to practice dentistry, the elder population They don't have cavities because their diet is based on root vegetables and protein.
Yeah.
The younger generation, when I see the children and the orphans, that, we have access to the orphanages, they all have cavities due to an Americanized diet.
Mhm.
They are like, they save money to buy a soft drink, Coca-Cola, and candy and sugars. So they change in diet. You can see generations, right? These people don't eat that. They don't have cavities. They have more of, periodontal, bone loss, tooth wear. But the children, they all have cavities.
Yeah. It's swapping out the ancestral diet for sure. And this
Right.
on, listen, uh, you've been around, you've traveled to, Nigeria is I've been to Kenya, but I have not been to Nigeria. I travel a lot in Africa. I've been to a lot of countries in Latin America, and I've been to Asia, Bali and poor countries, and then Japan. And you see what's going on, and the United States is like the beacon of good or not good, good
Mm-hmm.
and evil. And it really it's up to us
Mm-hmm.
to take this opportunity
Mm-hmm.
to change the world. Because
Yes.
when people look at the FDA, for example,
Mm-hmm.
that's their, oh, what does the FDA say about this? Well, the FDA is corrupt. They they say on one hand mercury is really, really bad, but it's okay if it's in your mouth. But kids shouldn't use it. But we're not saying don't use it on kids. I mean, it's so much doublespeak that who can keep up with this stuff,
Yeah.
And
It is overwhelming.
it
Mm-hmm.
is overwhelming. But
And patients are confused, they don't know what to believe. I believe that God is a God of truth, and there's a scripture in John 10:10 that says, Satan came to kill, lie, and destroy, but Jesus came to give you truth and life.
right,
So, it's very, very clear to me, that there's evil, but I believe that God can, Almighty, He can change things like this. I think people can actually sign the
right,
petition and create a wave of like, let's do something that one simple action can really transcend to generations. If somebody's older and they don't care, well, what about your grandchildren and the great grandchildren? We can do something to change our future.
it's so true. You know, Even when the last mercury filling is placed, the problem will continue, but at
Mhm.
least we won't be poisoning future generations.